and all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your metal market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for the weekend of Labor Day. It is, though, September 1st, 2023. It's your weekend edition. Have a great holiday, all. You deserve it. I deserve it. I can't wait. I want these 4 days off. We're going to be in the 90s in Chicago, 95 without a heat index, without. So we're at nighttime in the 40s. Now we're here. As I told you, it's like the unofficial beginning of fall. I looked up fall. I think it's the 23rd this year, and we'll see what happens with that. But, enjoy the days. Now, before I get too far along, I want to remind you my sale. It'll be over, so you're not going to hear me talk about this come Tuesday when I come back. Our sale's 40 off any of my charting courses or any yearly subscription to my research. You're not getting this again this year, this kind of sale. It was too big, my fault. And I see the reaction to it, which is great, but I gave away too much percentage. How do you get it? You move your cursor up here. You can also go to iraepstein.com. Remember, that entitles you in the morning to my subscriber videos where I cover 40 charts each time in the futures markets and or the spider ETFs, and then how I teach, and I think that's important. So I covered in great detail my thoughts on the Fed. I'm not going to repeat it here. So the jobs report is covered in both, my thoughts on it, in the spider ETF and the financial market video. Suffice to say here, the dollar has been on a terror ride all week. I mean, from 104.35 under 103 and back up now to 104.20 for all purposes. I view that this was not the jobs and all. I blame this on the thinness of the markets, the A-League traders being out of the place. The Europeans will all come back this week. Remember, in Europe, August is a month where people go take vacations. You might call that old. It's not the way it works. Try to go in the restaurants in the big cities of Rome and so on. A lot of them are closed down. They do this. It's tradition. I get it. If you're going to go, I've always learned to go at the beginning of the summer, not during this crazy end part of August. I avoid that by all costs. And come September, October, late September, October, they're wonderful to go to because the weather's still, in most cases, very mild. And you'd say, Ira, how could you get away? You're always here. Tell me. My wife says the same thing. I just missed a trip to Morocco. I stayed here. She went. But in looking at all this, as to where we're at, the dollar up and the gold still stayed pretty strong. I'm impressed with that. I think platinum's overdone on the upside. I think the silver-gold ratio is ready for the correction where silver loses to the gold a bit right here. I think that the market in copper is hoping, fingers crossed, that China gets away from the periphery and makes some big announcement to save their property markets. The big boys there are bleeding to the point where they won't survive. We're going to find out this week if Countrywide was able to get its debtors to prevent it from going into a full default. Remember, they went into default, but this one would be very different. They've offered stock. They've offered what they can. The problem is, if you can't get the public to buy new property, there's no cash flow unless the government does something. So the government's trying in its own way. It is a Band-Aid on a gouge that needs full surgery. Their Band-Aid is we're going to lower mortgage rates and we're going to pay you less interest on your bank accounts, and that's going to turn this around. Ha! That isn't going to do the job. I could be wrong, but I don't think I will be. The good news, by the way, in China is while they're not in an expansionary point yet in industry, they're no longer on the lows they were. Their numbers are slightly improving, and that's good. In the grain market, this is going to be now where the harvest begins in the corn, and then we'll be talking about harvest in beans in 3-4 weeks. So be ready how this all plays out. It all goes very fast. We're going to hear about Brazil, how their double crop of corn takes place, what the new plantings are like. I'm already writing about it. Bayer, and that we call it Bayer aspirin. It's really Bayer. Bayer has got some GMO corn that Brazil's accepted now, a new strand, and they're going to be planting that fence post to fence post. So as we look at the gold market, you have to agree it's drifting sideways. For the week, okay, for the month. You can't go by today. This was up because today's the first day of trading. But we can go back a bar, and when we do, we were down 1.19% for the month. Okay. Sort of drifting sideways right here. On a weekly chart, this is what I've been telling you. This is a key number now, the 1950-80, that's the 18-week average. If you can clear that and clear 1966-60, the bulls will think they have something going. As it stands, the bears are defending. You heard me. The bears are defending their position against that. When we take a look at how the chart action looks, you have a higher high, a lower low. That isn't much of a trend that I'd call it. Here's that 18-week average, so you can see the resistance point. Even if you were to get over this 1989, is it 69? Let me read it so I can get to it right, okay? I think it's 89.80. It is. It's 89.80. If the market were to get over that, you'd still have a lower low, higher high. Nothing can turn the chart up. If you take out this week's low, the week that we just finished, then watch out. You take that out, which was a 1961.10, and you open the door up for 1882.20. So I'd be watching that 1882.30. That's what I'd be watching. You're at a cusp, center line. Which way is it going to try to do something? When I look at momentum, oversold market that's trying to correct itself. Okay, but I'm not convinced it's got enough movement to go one way or the other. The gold-silver ratio, as you can see, it's starting now. You've had a correction just now. Is that going to be enough to get back to 81.86, or do you break through this low and silver gains on gold? And that's it. Whatever happens there, to me, is going to be the key. So if it wants to pop up, you're at 80.41, 81.86 the resistance. And in the silver market, on a weekly basis, you still have lower highs, lower lows, but you're over the 18-week average, so the bias is up. You don't have anything going there. In the copper, no trend. Higher high, lower low. You did hold that first challenge again of the 200-week average of closes and went back to neutral territory, and that's all that you can really say about it. And I think you've got a lot of resistance right here in the platinum as you're up to the 100-day average, the 18-week average. It's the 100-week average, the 18-week average, right into a resistance point. But you are correcting an oversold condition. The daily charts look much weaker than this. And last we get to the dollar, which is overbought, but certainly in an uptrend. Can it reach up here to the 105 area is the question. Because it's in an uptrend, it's possible. That's the next resistance point. Supports all the way back at the 18-day average at 102.52 down to the 100. I keep saying day, I mean week. 100-week average down to the 102.22, the 100-week average. So that's what I'll be looking at to see what these markets want to do. Again, if you're interested in the products that we have, the sale, move your cursor up here. Go to iraepstein.com under education or research. Goodbye, sale. Welcome, everybody, to the fall months. They will start September 4th, believe it or not, and I'll be with you. You have a great Labor Day. See you then.